fellow readers and booktubers. This is my 10 biggest books tag. It was an original tag. It was posted about a week ago. It was created by Alan at Hard Books. And there's only one prompt that goes with this. Let me read to you what was posted. Show your 10 biggest or largest books, not necessarily the books with the longest page count, unless that equals a big size. Show books that have a larger physical size than normal. And one of the people who responded to this was Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, and he suggested that when you start showing your giant books that you include a couple of regular size books as a point of comparison. So I'm going to do that too. I thought that was a very good idea. So what I did was I thought I'd accept the challenge here, and I went into my cave of giant books and grabbed as many as I could. I think I might have maybe more than 10 here, but not much more than that. Some of the books I have are 2 or 3 volumes, but I would count that as one book. So anyway, let's get started here. And I'll begin with this 2-volume book dealing with medieval art and medieval architecture. This was an offering of the Folio Society, although the books were not published by them, but they were selling them as a special offer. Both books are edited by Paolo Piva, who's a famous medievalist, and what he included in here were essays by other medievalists. And what makes this really special is that both volumes include some photographs and images of the art and architecture from the Middle Ages that's being discussed in the essays. Let me show you some examples here. In the one on medieval art, let me see here. So they have some pages of illuminated manuscripts in here, which are always a wonder to behold, because this was work done by monks in the monastery, done by hand. So you get a lot of this in here, and get a sense of perspective here. Here's a average size trade paperback compared to this, and here's an average size hardback book. So you get a sense of how big this book. In both volumes, this is the one on medieval art, and this one here on medieval architecture. They're both the same size. Not exactly the kind of books you can curl up with when you're in bed or even in your favorite chair, but if you find a nice big table somewhere, you can leaf through these, as I have many, many times. This one on medieval architecture also includes lots of photographs of medieval churches and just a great work. Look at that, even on the back cover. So, and then some of the giant books I have here are actually reference books, and some of them are atlases. This one was a gift from one of my daughters a few years ago. She picked this up at a used bookstore. It's the McNally International World Atlas. This is from 1960. All right. And atlases are I always enjoy looking at atlases. I don't know exactly why I find them so fascinating. Full color. And of course, the landforms are always the same, but it's the political boundaries that change. I think what's interesting about these old atlases is, here's Illinois, my home state. I think what makes these kind of atlases so interesting is the attention to detail. I mean, the maps in here are drawn to great specification, and great care is taken in this. It's truly works of art. So here's this one. And again, as a point of comparison, here's a typical hardback book today. It's from my daughter Allie. Thank you again. And then here's an even bigger World Atlas. This is the Britannica World Atlas from 1965. This was part of the Encyclopedia Britannica that's been in the family for a long time. But again, look at how gigantic this is. Look at that, right? I'm straining every muscle in my body to hold this thing up. But again, the maps are absolutely beautiful. They're all colored and great care and a lot of attention to detail here. So another giant book. Next giant book I have for you, not quite as big, but still larger than normal. This was a Let's see, this was published by the Aquinas Institute for the Study of Sacred Doctrine. This is a work of Thomas Aquinas. Some of you, if you're familiar with medieval philosophy or theology, you probably know Thomas Aquinas or St. Thomas Aquinas from the Summa. That's not what this is. This is a commentary he did on the book of Job. And it's a little bit bigger than your typical book. What makes it so interesting, the reason I enjoyed it so much, is that each page is double columned. On one side you have the original Latin, Thomas's own Latin, and then the other column facing it is the English translation. And there's lots of annotations in this too. So a little bit bigger than normal, than a normal hardback today. Okay, so it counts. That one. And then the Easton Press. I think they're still in production. Quite often, the classic books that they print are often outsized. They're bigger than normal. And I've got some of them. One of my favorites is this 2-volume edition of Sir Thomas Malory's The Death of Arthur. All right, look at that. Isn't that great? I compare this to a typical trade paperback today. Get you a sense of proportion here. Yeah, maybe not quite as giant as the atlases that I showed you, but it's still pretty big. And what I always liked about the Easton Press is that they give you the ribbon bookmarks in here. Do it upright. And they've got their own artwork for these editions too. So 2 volumes of that. And then, here we go. Let's get this one out of the way now. This is my giant 3-volume Webster's Third New International Dictionary. And again, this came with an Encyclopedia Britannica set that the family purchased years and years ago. Here you go. Look at that gigantic stuff. What I like about this is that it's 3 volumes unabridged. Again, here's the typical trade paperback today. Give you a sense of proportion here. And when you look at this, here's, let's see, volume 1 is, in this dictionary, is letters A through G, right? Then volume 2 is letters H through R. No wonder it's so big, right? Then volume 3, this is the kicker. Volume 3, letters S through Z, plus the foreign language portion of this dictionary. The full name of this dictionary is Webster's Third New International Dictionary and 7-Language Dictionary. Because in volume 3, once you get past the letter Z, you can see the tabs here that mark off the different languages. So, let's see here. Here are the languages. The languages are Yiddish, Swedish, Spanish, Italian, German, French, and then, they include a tab here for English. I'm not sure why they did that. But anyway, so it's also the 4 languages. That's in volume 3 of this giant book. One of my biggest books. So, there's that. And now we get into some books that are a little more manageable in size, but still big. A chronicle history of forts and fortresses by Martin Brice. This one is a paperback. It's very nicely done. Some great images here. These are not just castles and fortresses from Western Europe or from the Middle Ages. These are castles and fortresses from all around the world at different periods in human history. It's a good read too. I enjoyed this a great deal. But again, bigger than your typical book. And then the Oxford Illustrated Literary Guide to Great Britain and Ireland. This is a fun book. It's kind of like a dictionary. They mention all the great Irish and British all the Irish and British authors. And you can find entries of where they were born, where they lived, and some of the entries in this literary guide also talk about places that figure in some of the great works of English literature. It's a great guy. I'm planning a big trip in a few months, and I'll be visiting some of these places, so I pulled this one down off the shelf to give it some special attention. And then, the Counties of Britain. Oops, I'm missing something here. We'll get to it in a minute. The Counties of Britain. This is a facsimile edition of the Tudor Atlas by John Speed. This is originally published in the early modern period in the 17th century. Again, bigger than usual. It's a fairly giant book. And you can kind of see, again, an atlas. Now, the landforms here are a little confused, but a lot of attention to detail, and it really gives you a sense of how the English thought of themselves and their kingdom, and how they thought of Scotland and Wales, too, in the 17th century. This is a great book. I enjoyed this one. Another Atlas of Ancient America by Michael Cole, Dean Snow, and Elizabeth Benson. I've had this one for quite a while. This just kind of maps all of the Native American sites that date back well before the Columbian era, and with some great pictures to go along with it. It's very, very, very impressive stuff here. And then, to round this out, giant editions of Homer's Iliad Odyssey. Again, this is the Easton Press. This isn't just any translation of the Iliad and the Odyssey. This is the Alexander Pope translation, which makes this especially unique. Some Easton Press artwork here. Again, 2 giant books. All right. So those are my some of my offerings from my cave of the giant books, which I'll revisit again someday, and I'll show you some more of my giant books if you're asking for that, if the call for that gets loud enough to reach me. So anyway, this was fun. That's all I've got for you tonight. So enjoy yourselves, stay strong, and never stop reading.